At 3:35 a.m. on May 1st, 2026, a 911 call was placed from a Quick Trip gas station on Albemarle Road. The caller was 24-year-old Thomaz Hamilton. He reported that his girlfriend, 19-year-old Isabella Stroupe, had suffered a heart attack during sex and was no longer breathing. Hamilton had walked away from the apartment to place that call, leaving Isabella alone while he stood under the lights of the fuel pumps down the road. This initial report of a medical emergency would serve as the foundation for Hamilton's defense, a narrative designed to frame the death as a sudden, natural tragedy. Charlotte-Mecklenburg police arrived at the Yateswood Drive apartment, prepared to process a standard medical call. The officers walked into a room that immediately signaled a different reality. The state of the apartment pointed towards sustained violence rather than a cardiac event. Isabella was found unresponsive on a bed, minimally clothed, with severe injuries clearly visible to the first responding police officers. Investigators documented a heavy-duty industrial tow strap used to bind her to the bed frame. This industrial webbing is a tool for hauling vehicles, but here it functioned as a restraint. The presence of those restraints transformed the scene from a home into a site of captivity. The Mecklenburg County Medical Examiner's Office officially ruled Isabella's death a homicide. The physical evidence of the autopsy directly contradicted the heart attack claim. Isabella's body bore multiple stab wounds and a combination of fresh and partially healed bone fractures. Forensic analysis further determined that Isabella's physical condition at the time of her death left her completely unable to provide consent. These specific injuries align with the clinical framework of coercive control, where an offender uses isolation and physical trauma to remove a victim's autonomy. The varying ages of the fractures proved the violence wasn't limited to a single night. It had been occurring for months. Every item cataloged at the crime scene provided a specific map of how Isabella was kept in that apartment. Police recovered several broken cell phones. Shattering these devices effectively severed Isabella's ability to communicate with the outside world. Investigators also found a baseball bat and a sword. These bladed and blunt instruments provided the means for the fractures and wounds documented by the medical examiner. They also discovered a blood-stained knife wrapped in cellophane. The decision to wrap the weapon suggests an attempt to preserve the item after it was used. This inventory, the bladed weapons, the blunt instruments, and the industrial restraints, shows the apartment was maintained as a site of long-term violence. The relationship between the two began 4 years prior. At the time, Isabella was 15 years old, Hamilton was 20. Over those 4 years, Isabella's physical state deteriorated. By the time she was found, her body weight plummeted to approximately 60 pounds. Wasting away to 60 pounds requires months of severe caloric deprivation, a sustained strategy of starvation to weaken her. Isabella's head had also been shaved, a documented tactic used in captivity environments to strip away a victim's identity. The extreme weight loss and the shaved head were physical changes that took months to manifest, yet they remained hidden from the world outside that door. The prosecution of this case is currently moving through the Mecklenburg County court system. Hamilton gave a voluntary statement admitting to sexual intercourse on the night Isabella died. That admission became central to the state's case when combined with the medical findings of her incapacity to consent. Hamilton was formally charged with first-degree murder and first-degree forcible rape. He is held without bond. The physical evidence found in the apartment effectively dismantled the medical emergency claim he made to dispatchers. This tragedy unfolded within the density of a major metropolitan area and a shared apartment complex. The central question of the investigation remains how such extreme, long-term captivity could persist for months without a single intervention from neighbors or local authorities. Hamilton had been arrested 10 times since 2020 for weapons offenses and resisting officers. He was a person the legal system had interacted with repeatedly. A person does not drop to 60 pounds in a single night. That level of emaciation is the biological footprint of sustained, deliberate starvation. The industrial restraints and the victim's wasted physical state triggered an immediate homicide inquiry. Investigators began a sweep of the apartment, documenting a heavily blood-soaked mattress. They recovered a collection of blunt and bladed instruments, including a baseball bat and a sword. Inside the bedroom, they discovered a bloodied knife that had been meticulously wrapped in cellophane. That wrapping suggests the perpetrator wasn't panicking. It indicates a calculated attempt to manage evidence after the fact. Police also found multiple shattered cell phones scattered throughout the apartment. Every piece of evidence in the room indicates a space staged for sustained violence, leaving no room for the medical accident narrative. The autopsy results were even more damning, revealing a combination of severe stab wounds and fractured bones. By examining the different stages of healing in those injuries, the medical examiner determined the torture had continued for several months. At 60 pounds, the victim's body was so depleted she was physically incapable of giving consent to sex. That finding turned Hamilton's own alibi against him. He had already admitted to detectives that he was having sex with Isabella when she died. On May 5th, the Violent Criminal Apprehension Team arrested Hamilton, charging him with first-degree murder and first-degree forcible rape. The forensic record effectively closed a legal trap on the suspect, using his own voluntary statements to secure the rape charge while dismantling his fabricated story. Beyond the physical weapons, investigators had to dismantle the psychological architecture of the relationship, the mechanics of coercive control. Their relationship began 4 years prior. Isabella was 15 years old. Hamilton was 20. The broken phones and the shaved head were tools of that relationship, deliberate tactics used to manufacture isolation and enforce degradation. During those same years, Hamilton was well known to the legal system, with a public record of at least 10 prior arrests since 2020. That public criminal record stands in stark contrast to the absolute silence that kept Isabella's suffering hidden behind closed doors. This months-long regime occurred inside a densely populated East Charlotte apartment complex. This case highlights a haunting societal gap. Months of torture in a shared residential building without a single intervention from neighbors or the community. Isabella was held captive in plain sight, her 60-pound frame silenced by the very man who claimed he was trying to save her. The Isabella Stroupe case remains a verified record of domestic captivity. Coercive control functions through the systematic erasure of a human being, occurring in the silence of an ordinary residential block. Isabella Stroupe's death stands as a grim blueprint of domestic captivity,